sunburn. Hello my fellow nations, welcome back to my bedroom since college is over, and also welcome back to my channel. Where have I been the past months? Well, you see, clearly not here. I am in the process of, I was recording during the past 4 months. I recorded a whole bunch of things and I'm in the process of editing them all together, and you will get a giant, very long video out of that soon, I hope. Today, oh, I need that book. Today, I am going to be reviewing Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and it is a part of the book swap that Amy and I have been doing. We reviewed one book each so far. She reviewed Every Last Word by Tamara Stone, and I did A School Story by Andrew Clements. And so this time, I have given her It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini, so you should go to her channel and check out that video once you're finished watching this, please, hopefully, thanks. And I will be answering questions and talking about Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. So, the gist of this book is that there is a girl named Kath and a girl named Ren, because her mom had twins and they weren't expecting twins, therefore Kath, Ren, Catherine. So there are 2 girls named Kath and Ren, and they go away to college, and Kath is very nerdy. She writes fanfiction. She is known by the name Magicath on fanfic.net, and she writes fanfiction about Simon Snow. And while she's away at college, she's constantly hiding in her dorm room, living off of protein bars instead of going to the dining hall, avoiding parties, and she's in a fiction writing class. And I very much relate to that because I was in a fiction writing class in the fall, and so she spends a lot of her time writing, and she's very different from her twin even though they're identical twins, and her roommate's name is Reagan, and Reagan convinces Kath to be more social, but because she's more social, she then has less time to write, so then she's apologizing to her fan base and she's trying to finish this last book before the author publishes it, because she's the biggest Simon Snow fanfiction writer on fanfics.net. So that's the gist of it. You'll have to read it to figure out if she succeeds and finishes her book in time and what goes on with her writing workshop partner Nick, because he's not always a great guy, and he may or may not want to steal her work. So that is the basics of this, and now Amy has texted me some questions, so allow me to look at those and answer them. First I have to scroll back in our messages because we were talking about cold showers and sunburn. Okay, question number 1. Which of the twins would you say you relate to the most? Well, considering I too avoid the dining hall and live off of protein bars during college because I don't want to see other humans, and I also write all the time as I am an English major, I'd say I relate to Kath more. She's nerdy. When we have to introduce ourselves with an adjective that starts with the same letter as my name, I say, "Hi, I'm Nerdy Noelle." So, yes, I identify with Kath and not her sibling who goes partying and drinking. No thanks. I'll pass. Number 2. How are Kath and Ren's college experiences different or similar to your college experiences? Okay, well, I go to a small Christian college, and it is a dry campus, and I don't know anybody who goes off and drinks and parties, so that is very different to Ren's experience and even Kath's experience because she does go to a party. So I don't really go out and socialize like that. I would say that it's similar because I have been forced to meet other people and socialize with other people even though I didn't necessarily want to, because that's sort of how you get around in college. You have to make new relationships, and I guess you kind of know that going into college, but still, the first year I basically only hung out with the same 4 people, and then this past year was my sophomore year and I got to know many other people. Most of those people were English majors and they're not very sociable either, so we're kind of just like a cluster of introverts and we socialize within that cluster, but I think that's better than no socialization at all, which is what Ren starts out, not Ren, which is how Kath starts out college, and she starts talking with her boyfriend Abel, who she had been going with for 3 years, and then eventually they break up, and she's like, oh, maybe we were never actually dating. And so college forces you to look at the relationships that you've already formed and also form new relationships. Number 3. Why do you think it's so hard for Kath to write about herself, and can you relate to it? One of the assignments Kath has to do is she has to write about herself. I think that writing about myself can be extremely difficult in a narrative form. I prefer to express myself through poetry, and I think it's easier to do so that way because you can work with the language more, and there's more means of self-expression, and there's more interpretations, in my opinion, of poetry than there are of regular novels. So I enjoy expressing myself through poetry. I don't always write about myself because that seems a little self-centered. I think that I can take attributes of myself and apply them to the characters that I write about because as an English major and as a nerd, I do a lot of writing. I have participated in Nano since high school, and I successfully completed Nano the past 2 years that I was in college, including April's Camp Nano. So I have lots of stories. I've written many characters. I've written in different universes a couple times. I've written from both genders. I've written from many different perspectives, and I think that you can apply yourself to different characters in different ways and still have it come across well. So if I want to make a character who's deeply invested in a sport or very passionate about something, I can take something that I am passionate about and transform it into what they are passionate about. So obviously it's easier to write about things that you know about, so if I wanted to make someone passionate about gymnastics, it would be easier for me because I was a gymnast, I am a coach, and I am passionate about gymnastics. So it is easier for me to apply that to someone else. But then when you're taking more emotional states, those can also transfer easily, because say I'm writing about someone who is very nervous about their first day of school. I can take a little snippet of my anxiety and apply it to my character because I know what goes on inside of someone's head who has anxiety. Granted, I only know what goes on inside of my mind, and it's a bit of a mess. A lot of a mess, most of the time, let's be honest. But I can give them a similar experience, and so in that way I can write about myself without actually writing about myself, because sometimes I feel self-centered if I'm just writing about myself. That's what my journal's for. My journal is to write about me. My books and stories are to write about other people. And it's okay if we share some qualities because everybody's human. Everybody I have written about is human, at least. Have you ever written a fan fiction? What was your experience? Would you consider writing one in college? Have I ever written a fan fiction? Yes. I have a Wattpad account. I have written multiple fan fictions. And to the tiniest extent, I understand what Kath is going through when her readers are telling her, we want more, when's your next update? Because I uploaded a fanfic in 2015, I think? And it wasn't very good, but I finished it and I uploaded it. And people have been asking me for a sequel for a few years now, and let me see how many reads this thing has now. Since then, I have written a better fanfiction, and I think it is so much better. The writing is better, the plot arc is better, the character development is better, but people are still hung up on this other story and telling me to update it. It has 19,000 reads. And the story that I want other people to be reading has 3,000 reads, and then the other one has 739 reads, and those two stories I think are so much better. I think writing fanfiction is really useful for creators because it's sort of like a coloring book. You are taking a universe or two characters, and it's basically an outline. So you have the outline of the world, or you have the outline of these characters, and then you get to color in the rest. You get to color in the interactions with other characters, you get to color in what's happening to them, you get to color in the time and the place, and it's just really cool. So sometimes I think it's helpful when you're first starting to write to use other characters, even if you're just taking the outline of them and coloring them in completely differently, or if you're writing an alternate universe fanfic, so you're taking them but you're putting them somewhere else, or you're transforming them from being human to being vampires or werewolves or fairy folk. Like, I think it's great. I have enjoyed some of the works I have written more than others, but I definitely think it is a worthwhile experience to experiment with that before you start writing your own things. Oh, the third part of this question is, would you consider writing one in college? I wouldn't write one for an assignment and hand it in, but I could see myself writing fan fiction still, like, on the side and developing things, because maybe I'm gonna write a sequel for that one that I wrote in 2015. Who knows? I'm in a different decade of my life now. Even though I told people I'd make a sequel, maybe I'll make a tiny sequel, because some of my works have been 50,000, 100,000, 150,000 words, so I don't want to write a sequel that long because I'm not as invested in that anymore. But I would not write a fanfic for an assignment for college and hand it in to my professor. College roommates. Have you ever had one, and was yours anything like Kat's? So this past year I was in a single, but my freshman year I was in a triple, which was a very unique experience. My mom told me when I went off to college that I had to have roommates. So I had roommates. It wasn't bad. I think it wasn't the worst thing. It's definitely an experience that I would recommend to people if they can have it. If they are given the opportunity, I would say you should embrace it, because how often are you going to get that chance again in your life? Maybe it's frequently. Maybe you're not going to live on your own and you're going to live with a roommate when you're older. I don't know. My experience was so-so. I had 2 roommates. Both of their names were Kat, and they were both from New Jersey. And then I was Noelle. I still am Noelle, and I'm from Pennsylvania, so we had a board that said Kat squared plus Noelle as our room sign, and I thought that was pretty funny. It's interesting because I had similarities with both of them, because one of them ran cross-country and I ran track and field, except that I had hip surgery, so I didn't this past year. And the other one is nerdy, and I am a nerd. I do the YouTubes. She likes the YouTubes. So there was a common ground there, but it was also difficult because I am extremely introverted and an extremely anxious human being. So sometimes they would go off and do things, and there was nowhere that I was joining them, and I'd just stay in my room, stay in our room, record ukulele covers, and hope they didn't walk in and stuff like that. It wasn't the worst experience. One of them left after the fall semester, so there were just 2 of us in the spring semester, except the other cat left partway through J-term. So I was alone in a triple for about 2 weeks or so. That was fine by me, and then my other roommate came back and I was like, hey, welcome back, and we just continued coexisting. I definitely know of other people who are closer to their roommates, and it's nothing against either of my roommates because they're both fantastic people. I think it was just at that point in my life, even though it was only a year and a half ago, I was very anxious. Very, very anxious. Now I'm on different meds, and I have a different therapist, and I've gone to a partial hospitalization program, and my other roommate has also done things for psych, and I think we're both in different places now. Like, we'll still hang out occasionally, we'll get a meal together, but we're not as close as other people's roommates are. And yeah, that's all I have to say on that matter. Was I supposed to say anything about Reagan and Kat's relationship? Yes, was yours anything like Kat's? I think that both of them were more outgoing than me. So in that sense, yes, it was a little bit like Kath and Reagan, because Reagan is more outgoing than Kath. And Reagan also had, did she have she had guys over, and she had friends over to the room, and that wouldn't happen as frequently in our room because I sometimes vetoed that, and I'd be like, hey, can you do that somewhere else? Or they just wouldn't be in the room as much. I tend to make rooms my sanctuaries, so like my bedroom right here is very much me, and it is my spot, and it is where I go because I am an introvert and I need to recharge. In some aspects it was similar to Kath's because she would always hide away in her room as well, but it's also different because my roommates didn't party. Reagan didn't really party that much. I don't know. It's similar and different. Bad answer, Noelle. Number 6. Why do you think Kath didn't notice boys until attending college? Did your views of dating/boys change once you entered college? Let's answer the second question first. Did your views of dating/boys change once you entered college? No. No, they did not. I am a very solitary person, and I am pretty much okay with that. It'll be really funny because some of my friends have talked about, like, oh, when I'm older, I want 3 kids, I want a boy, and then 2 girls, and this is what their names are gonna be, and this and that. And I will look at them and say, the only kids I plan on having are baby goats. So I don't really need another human there for that. I can be very content with my goats by myself. So my views of dating and boys really didn't change that much when I went to college. I still want to grow up and own goats and have a farm. That's my ideal future. I don't know if I will ever get there, but I hope someday. And as to why I think Kath didn't notice boys until attending college, I think it's difficult. I think it depends on where you are in your life and how you do things in your life. Because for example, I was a gymnast, so at the gym I was on the girls' gymnastics team, so I practiced with girls all the time. And there's a separate team for the guys, so yes, I would see the guys practicing and we would talk to them occasionally, but we have different events and we have different ways of practicing and different times for practice, so we didn't really hang out or anything. So if Kath grew up in a world where she didn't really do activities that were coexisting with guys, or like mingling with guys, and they were just coexisting, I don't know. It's difficult. Life's difficult. I didn't really acknowledge a whole bunch of humans until I got to college. So male, female, yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to acknowledge people for who they are and not just for, oh yeah, you exist, that's cool. But when you realize you exist, you have experiences, you have ups and downs, you have trials and tribulations and triumphs, and then you look around and you realize, holy heck, all of these humans have all of these things, and I can't possibly know all of them. It gets a little overwhelming. It gets overwhelming, and girls are very dramatic, and guys tend to be more level-headed, and that is what I have learned from college. Okay, I think I'm gonna edit this video now. Overall, on Goodreads, I think I gave Fangirl either 4 or 5 stars. I'll link my Goodreads below because I just got one because a whole bunch of the English majors kept going, Noelle, get a Goodreads, Noelle, get a Goodreads, so ta-da, I have a Goodreads now. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars on Goodreads. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. You should click the link below to watch Amy's video because she's talking about It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini, which is one of my favorite books. And you should also invest yourself in reading Fangirl if you enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching.